Hey guys, I'm going to introduce you to the beginning of the Vectornator Pro 10 app. It's a free app that we talked about that runs with creating vector images, much like Adobe Illustrator. It even has a little bit of a connection or communication capabilities with the Creative Cloud, etc. The first thing I'm going to have you do, though, is you go over to Safari and type in Vectornator Pro Manual. They have here in the second option the Vectornator Manual on Apple Books. So it's an Apple book. I'm going to open mine up in Apple Books. Okay, that's great. Yes, I want to read. And so this basically starts with the beginnings of tools, how it opens, and all you do is kind of keep swiping to your left and it shows you where some basic things are. A few things have changed along the way, maybe a few little tiny placements of some things, but for the most part, they do try and update this. And so updates seem to be pretty well in hand. And it will show animations of what happens when you click on something, and what other tools and functions mean, and how to get bars to show up, how to make bars and things disappear. So this is a great go-to. And you've got your index at the beginning here. If you want to see things about how to create a new document, the editor, the action bar, sliders, and it's got, if you pull down from the top, you can go to the different chapters. There's on editing, there's on the color picker, choosing colors, how to work with layers. So it's got a whole bunch of different stuff. Even I think one on how to use it on your iPhone. I think there it is, iPhone version. If you're desperate, you leave your iPad at home or at school or something. And it's just some basic useful information. The actual app itself has a connection to online so that you can see their blog information, which will have sometimes updated tutorials and stuff as well if you are curious and want to learn more. I'm going to close out the book now, and I want to kind of take you into Vectornator itself. So let me clear off my page here and open it just as you would by clicking on Vectornator. And when it opens into what we call the gallery view. And it shows you anything that you've created so far. I've pulled some similar things of mine into folders, things that look similar or were similar base examples. So you can kind of blend things together just like you would on your iPad if you were trying to make a folder. Like these things are very similar. So I'm going to take this guy. Come on, buddy. There we go. And I'm going to put over the top of him, and look, they're in folders. Okay. You can name a folder and you can name a document by tapping on it. There we go. So I could call this something different. We'll just call it a sample right now. Okay. You can name something now or before you export it to send it back to me. It's either way. You've got an option. It depends on what kind of an organized person you are. All right. If I want to open a new document, I hit the little plus sign up here in the right corner, and you can import a new document, a photo, something from the cloud that you've saved, from your camera. Those who might work with bamboo slates and stuff, if you've got those kind of things, if you have Figma pictures, you can choose a certain paper size. If you're creating to the web or some kind of video-based screen edition, what kind of HD or what kind of screen resolutions you want to have. If there are certain kind of devices you're designing for. If there are little different kind of app icons. And if you're creating something for some kind of social media. For the most part, we're going to be creating stuff that we'll probably end up printing out. So I tend to kind of pick some basic stuff that we know we can print with, like tabloid or US letter. So I'm just going to grab a US letter one right now. All right. So I'm going to pinch reduce. You know, you can pinch zoom. I'm pinch reducing so I can see a little bit of the whole view of the paper. It always kind of opens up in super zoom, kind of big for me, and I kind of want to get my bearings, kind of looking at a full canvas or a piece of paper in front of me. What is my total space? All right, up in the top left we have a little caret that opens up to more tools. The X actually closes the whole thing, like most X's do. The second thing is a gear, and the gear offers various things on the overall view of your canvas, and they're always just kind of like personal preferences. Mine is set for the dark view. There are those who might want the light view if they feel things are too dark. There are let's see, I'm trying to find, we don't really need to work with some of these. It will give us whether you want to see a grid to help you draw by. So you can hide a grid, or you can have a grid. And look, I know there's a checkerboard in the background, but I'm hoping you can see the light subtle grid that's being added right now. So a perpendicular grid, there's an isometric one, okay, or you can hide it and not have it at all. If you don't even want the checkerboard to see where there's nothing there and you just want a white background, you can do that. CMYK, we'll talk more about it this semester. It basically means cyan, magenta, yellow, and the K stands for key black. Those are your 4 printing colors. And so if we were making something that we were definitely going to print out and not just design for a screen to be seen, like a TV or a phone or an iPad, we would click on that so that the colors that we create here come closer to matching what we're printing out on the printer. Okay, I'm going to scroll up a little bit more here, and you can see that it's showing me here the dimensions. So if I wanted to change my mind on my dimensions, and I'm already kind of into designing, I can click here and retype a percentage or the in inches, what I want to have if I want to change it. I like drawing with rulers. I can kind of see how much my spacing is, the big picture, especially when I pull back. And most people have show touches off. I'm doing show touches so that you can see where my cursor is pointing at with the little circles. All right, the next thing we have are the up arrows, and this is the second most important thing really for us, is to know where it is we go to send things back to Schoology or to turn stuff in. And so here's where, I'll have just a video eventually of just how to turn stuff in once we have that, but we have things such as saving as a JPEG, saving as a PNG, SVGs, PDFs, Adobe Illustrator. You can see here that we have Send It to Illustrator. We have Creative Cloud, where we can save something in the Creative Cloud, because with Creative Cloud accounts you have a certain amount of storage space where you can save things online if you're in the middle of working on something and you want to go back and forth. That's definitely something that some people like to use. You can print something out, you can save the image like to your camera roll like you normally do, and so you can make a copy of it. So there's definitely some options for exporting and that kind of stuff. Then you have your back arrow and your forward arrow if boo-boos or problems occur. Let's look at just some of the basic tools. Some of the basic tools, this would be our selection tool. So this would help us select the one with the bottom, the stem to the actual arrow is going to allow us to select an object that we've drawn. So we have to draw something to be able to select it, right? So I'm going to come down here near the bottom and I'm going to click on this rectangle tool. And I'm going to draw this rectangle tool. All right, so I have this basic rectangle, and mine is of a certain color, and we'll talk about colors here in just a second. But we can identify and know that this guy is in the middle of being drawn because he has some anchors, or what they call nodes. these black little nodes, circles in various spots. They tend to be on each of the corners and the midpoints of the straightaway lines, okay? At the top is an extension orange dot, which allows us to grab it and to turn it at whatever angle we want, okay? So basically, whenever you're drawing something, things are always drawn at 90 degrees, and then you have the option of placing it askew or turning it however you need to while you're creating it. All right, now talking about the selection tool, I'm going to kind of, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Let me go back here. Doop. All right, so this is currently not selected. Nothing has been chosen. We can tell that because there are no little nodes all the way around it. So I'm going to go to my selection tool up here, and I'm going to click it now. Okay, so now we can tell that it has been selected because of what we call a bounding box. Between the nodes here, you can see that fine black line. That's showing us kind of its original placement before we went and turned it, right? And that is what it's called, its bounding box. It's bound within that space. That space is holding that shape, okay? There's some other things that we can do with that actual object. We could rotate it this direction. This little symbol down here is a rotate also. And when you click on it, it rotates it on its center axis. So when I click it and just kind of swing back and forth, I can choose, and it will pivot from this point, not from up here at the top point where we had earlier. Okay, so just another option of turning and spinning our little guy. Let's see. I can change its size, and notice the little icon shows that it's getting bigger all over. Look at that. So it's pulling out all four sides to make it bigger, which is kind of a cool thing. Okay. Otherwise, it typically will, notice how I'm pulling from the bottom left corner and the top right corner isn't moving. So it's anchored up here at the top right, and whatever I'm moving, see, I'm making it fatter now. All right. I can make it skinnier or fatter, but down here, it keeps its proportion, but it just enlarges it all sides together. Cool feature. Okay. Another thing, I can click on this, which is to duplicate. And I'm going to drag now the duplicate that it just made. Sweet. Okay. So say you want to make a whole bunch of these guys and you want to make them in various sizes. Okay. Oh, whoop, too far. I can make them in various sizes. I just zoomed in and I didn't mean to zoom in. I made him too big. I got carried away. See how big that got on me? Whoo! I got crazy excited with it. So I need to do that. Let me take off the copying because I keep making copies. There we go. So I've got gobs of these now because my little make a copy was highlighted. And while I was talking to you, it kept making copies. Isn't that crazy? All right, so I'm going to delete a few of these. So I'm going to select and delete and select and delete. All right. So one of the things you have to watch out for, because I got carried away, while that was still selected, every time I did this, it was making new copies. I can make copies till the cows come home. Okay. See, it just made another one. Isn't that crazy? Okay. So if it's highlighted, all right, I'm going to take off the copy feature and I can get rid of things, right? Okay. Now, what if I wanted to select each one of these, and I don't want them to be this violet color. I want them to be maybe red or something different. Okay, so to do that, I need to make sure that they're all selected. So this top thing is a little check mark, and behind it there are more shapes. You can kind of get the feeling that there's a shape behind there and a shape behind there, right? So that means I'm going to click on something and then it's going to continue to add each one that I click to the first one. So I'm making a selection of all of these together. And we know that because the bounding box, that fine line that has all of the nodes, surrounds all of them. All right. Now I'm going to take you somewhere new, to colors. We're going to come up to the top right bar, instruction bar, and there's a paintbrush. That's our style panel. And that allows us to change the fill, the inside of our shape, and eventually the stroke of our shape down here, the outline. Stroke means an outline, okay? So I'm going to come up here first, and let's change the fill. So by clicking inside there, I'm going to use my little slider here. This is like the slider we have of the color wheel in Illustrator. I'm going to change these. We talked about red, right? So I'm going to come over here and tap on that. Woohoo! Now they are red. Okay. Well, what if you're like, well, this is great, but I really want to do something with this, the outline stroke. All right. So I'm going to come down here to the stroke. All right. Maybe I want a different color down here for the stroke. I'll do something complementary, you know, just to make it wacky and cool. So the opposite of red is green. So I'm going to do some green. Okay, I'm going to move that out of the way. Let me show you how I did that real quick. When I click on that, this gray bar appears right up here. If you touch that gray bar with your finger or a stylus and flick it down, it goes out of your way. Okay, right below the color option for stroke is the width option. So you can choose how wide or chunky you want the outline of that object to be. So the stroke width determines how wide or how skinny you want it to have. All right. We have other fun things like we can play with different opacities. Right now, the opacity or the opaqueness of the object is 100% solid. We cannot see through it. It is completely opaque. But as soon as I start pushing this slider with my finger or with a stylus back, looky there, we can start to see through. And we know we see through because we're seeing that checkerboard back there in the background, right? Okay. And again, it's happening for all of them right now because they're all selected. Now, if I come back over here and I deselect and I just want to select this one, I can then come back over here and only that shape has been changed in its opacity. Okay. Just a few more things over here. I could select an object and I could decide whether I want to do something interesting with it. You can start playing with different effects like overlay, hue and saturation, screened, lightened. Sometimes things will have more an effect than others. It depends on what we're working with and how they're drawn. We have blur options where you can blur the object a little bit. Oh, come on. Oh, give me a, there we go. I was pulling the wrong direction. So notice how he's blurring, but also notice how the stroke line went away. So you will lose your outline stroke when you're trying to blur an object because it doesn't see the line or the outline as an object. So it only pays attention really to the actual shape portion. Other fun things, you can turn lines if you want to into arrows, dashes, rounded corners, straight corners. We can even do things such as we can come down here and we can create a shadow if you want to, a dark shadow on an object. Look at that. Makes it feel like it's doing a little bit of hovering, right? Which is kind of fun. So you've got some options with style. Okay. I'll come back with a little bit more of an overview in another video so I don't make this one a little too long. Okay. I'm going to come out of here and we'll catch you on the flip.